you guys, welcome back to the desk corner and welcome to another new video. And in today's video we have another exciting package. I am so excited that I've been receiving these lately, especially after recovering from a very gloomy June, being sick and having a lot of life stuff going on. There's nothing more exciting than receiving some art supplies in the mail. Today I'll be opening this art supply that Etchr kindly sent me to try out for review. As I said, you guys, I couldn't be more excited, so let's just go ahead and get straight to opening. I am never so great at removing packaging. Here you guys can see that Etchr has sent me a watercolor block. This is 50% cotton paper, and it's cold pressed, and it comes with 20 sheets. Now I will be honest with you guys, I've never used an actual watercolor block before, so this could be interesting. I know it's a little bit, you know, like it's tricky to remove the actual paper afterwards, but we are just going to figure that part out later. So let's go ahead and take the plastic wrap off. I went ahead and took it out of its packaging, and I just wanted to read to you guys what this says here. Again, this is high quality, acid-free, 50% cotton paper, and this is also vegan friendly paper. The size of this is A5, so this is a small size of paper, which is good for me because I actually don't have a lot of watercolor paper as it is, and I have some bigger sheets, don't really have any smaller sheets, so this is going to be very useful for me. The cover is very cute, as you guys can see, and then on the back here it says, show us your art, tag us with hashtag Etchr paper on social media for a chance to win a monthly Etchr art voucher. So that's fun. Now you guys, as I mentioned before, I have not used an actual watercolor block before. And as I open it up here, I could see that there is like a black paper on the front, and that I think I need to actually remove it to get access to that first page. So you guys, let's go ahead and bring up the YouTube tutorials of how to use a watercolor block. I was just watching Naomi's video to figure out how to do it, and she recommended to use a butter knife. So we used a butter knife instead of something sharp, and I think that actually came off pretty well. As you can see, there's like a little bit of black residue from this paper that was sitting there on top, but we successfully have removed it now. I think I might still use it as like a cover sheet though. The hardest part is now over, you guys, and we can get to the actual fun part. I've got my Sennelier watercolors, of course. I just figured out I actually want to do a summary piece, something kind of similar to a piece I did last year, and I'm excited. I'm just a little nervous about sketching it out. So let me go ahead and open this up. One nice thing about the block is it's going to dry flat, and then I won't worry about removing the actual paper until, of course, it has completely dried, and so we don't have to worry about a warped paper. I'm not really sure if I'm going to sketch it this way, or maybe I should actually sketch it this way. Alright, you guys, enough talking, let's get to sketching. Can you guys guess what it is yet? That's right, it's a seahorse. So I decided I wanted to do some marine life, and the tail might have actually been too short now that I'm looking at it. Oh my gosh. I was just trying to make it fit the page though, so I couldn't really make the tail very much longer. I remembered I did a turtle last year, so I didn't want to be too repetitive. I've done a lot of sharks, I've done different things like that, I've done a seal, but I've never done a seahorse, so that's why I chose to do a seahorse for this painting. It was a little bit more difficult to sketch out than I imagined it would be. By the way, the face threw me off a bit. And for this painting, I am using colors that I don't normally use in my artwork. We've got lemon yellow, we've got light phthalo green and cobalt green, and we're also going to use cobalt blue and ultramarine, and a couple of other colors like dioxazine purple. I am just using colors that normally I would not use and that would not come up in the subject matter I normally like to paint. So that's very exciting for me. I wanted this to be a bright and, as I mentioned before, summery piece. So as far as the laydown of the paint on the paper, it was pretty similar to 100% cotton paper, but a little bit more difficult to get rid of those hard edges. I would say those form a little bit more quickly. So some of the effects I noticed go on differently than 100% cotton paper, and that's just the difference between 100% and 50% cotton paper in general. I'm imagining that the other percent is like cellulose or something, but I do have to say, even though this is only a 50% cotton paper, it did perform very well. I sometimes think that I tend to use a smaller brush than what I should be using resulting in paint drying before I'm able to work it properly. So I'm using a size 4 brush here for this painting. I wanted to make sure I could get in all those little details. I'm not sure if that might have been too small for some areas, or if it might have caused the paint to dry fast, as I might have been working a bit more slowly than if I was using a bigger brush, but oh well, I think it turned out anyways okay in the end. The tail was half a blue purplish color and then half yellowish orange. That was a whole lot of fun to do. I did have a little bit of trouble mixing that brown in with the yellow and the orange without getting too much of a muddy mess, but for the most part I think it worked out pretty well. One thing I always struggle with watercolor is leaving those highlights in, so as you could see there are some just pure white areas I've left in so that the piece kind of pops out a little bit more. I didn't want to fill in every single inch of the seahorse, and parts of the seahorse, like the fins, I think they're called the fins. The fins, for example, are going to be a bit see-through, so that's kind of a fun effect to do with watercolor as well. You'll see me working on that right now, and I kind of just put in a few colors there and didn't fill in all of the space, and that's how I got a little bit more of a transparent look for some of the fins. That big fin right there is not too transparent, but some of the other ones will be. That's annoying. You could see my phone at various points throughout this video as I'm recording clips for TikTok. I'm going to try to make a TikTok of some portions of me creating this artwork. So my TikTok handle is at alexiscassandraart. I haven't posted there in a while, like 2 years or something like that, but I'm going to try and keep up with it now because I think it's a nice growing platform for artists. I just have never really been into it, but I'm going to try to get into it a little bit. I know that there's a ton of artists on there, so we'll see how that goes. Give me a follow if you would like to. And also I have a Patreon, which is also linked in my description boxes on my videos always, and that is serving more as a tip jar at the moment, but I will have a real-time version of this artwork available on my Patreon very soon. I think that real-time versions of watercolor artworks are especially helpful, so you could see what effects or techniques I'm using and the effects that I'm getting from that. So that's going to be up there pretty soon. I always appreciate those of you guys who support me on there, but it is functioning as a tip jar, meaning there aren't tiers. You could just choose whatever amount you would like to pledge, and you can cancel at any time. So as always, everything is linked in my description box. Back to the video though, I did want to mention I'm getting that very dark color on the seahorses back by mixing Payne's Gray with a bit of cobalt blue, and that darker green you see is forest green as well. I wanted to amp up the contrast a bit. I was dropping some color into some of the already wet areas to do a little bit of a like wet on wet technique, or dry on wet technique actually, to create some details that would blend into the background a little bit and not be too harsh, because of course you know when you do like a dry on dry technique you're going to get some harsher looking edges. And I sometimes would like to avoid that. So there's a ton of different effects you can get with watercolor, obviously, and I wanted to try a bunch of them since I am using a different paper and testing it out. It's beneficial to try as many different effects and techniques as possible. Although I did not test out the wet on wet technique very much in this, I don't think I did at all actually, but besides that, I tested out a lot of different effects. Oh, once I added in the seahorse's eye, it really comes to life, doesn't it? My original idea was to actually fine line this artwork, but then I decided I didn't want it to be too much mixed media, and I actually just wanted to keep it watercolor. The only thing I did in the end was add some effects with a white gel pen. But I rely on fine liners a lot, and I thought maybe it would be fun to just try and create this without any fine liners, even though I normally would use fine liners for something like this. Oh, and there I'm adding some more of the fins, and that's what I meant by transparent. I actually created them using a good mix of water with the paint so that I would get a lighter look, and you know, the fins actually do look transparent in the reference image, so I think that that effect worked out nicely. And then I worked a little bit more on the face as well. I just love how the contrast in this piece looks, and all the different variations of color. You've got some cool yellows and then warm yellows, and same with the greens, and ultramarine, also that dioxazine purple, and even some orange. I just think that it all works really well together, and it's an array of colors I don't normally use. I just wanted to break up some of that talking with some music since I've been talking so much, but you can see I'm adding in some more colors to some of the fins on the seahorse's back, and then we are just going to add in some more detail. One issue I have with watercolor is I tend to overwork, and that can be very annoying. I have been trying my best not to overwork lately, but it still tends to be a habit of mine. I'm not sure how I can get over it, especially when wanting more of a loose watercolor effect. So that is definitely something I need to work on in the future, is not overworking my pieces. I don't think that I ended up overworking this one too much though, and I was pretty satisfied with the results that I got with this one. So that's good. I do like to add in some definition always, even with my looser watercolor pieces, so I'm going in and doing that with some of my sepia in certain areas. There was a little bit of brown visible in the reference photo. Sometimes when I am doing voice recordings like this and listening back during editing, I just get so tired of the sound of my own voice. I don't know if that's just because you're listening to your own voice or if I am just talking too much in this video. I am sorry if that is the case. So here I am adding some bubbles to the background. I thought that the background was a little too plain and this painting needed something, but I didn't want to do a splash effect or a full background really. I've done a lot of splash effects in the past. I wanted to do something different and I decided to do bubbles. So I just used the colors on my palette that were already there so that we are not wasting too much paint, and I used them to create bubbles. I've got some blues, greens, purples, and even a couple of yellow and orange bubbles of some different sizes. All I really did for this was create a general oval shape and leave a little bit of a highlight, and then I created a few different sizes too, and I tried to concentrate most of them around the middle and have them spread out a little bit too towards the edges. And hopefully that added a little bit of extra oomph to this piece, something that the piece needed, and a lot of watercolor pieces tend to need if you don't do a background, especially because the seahorse only takes up a certain portion of the page since it's quite skinny. Then I added a couple of smaller bubbles at the very top, and I went in with my white gel pen after that to add some details. I always love to use a white gel pen. If you want something more archival though, you should probably use white gouache instead, but I was a little bit too lazy for this artwork to do so. I think that this really helped everything to pop out in the end as well. So I'll just let you watch the end of this. Luckily, I didn't have any issue removing this with the butter knife either, so I'm not going to have any issues, and now I know I at least know how to use a watercolor block and I'm not quite as afraid of them. Don't know why I was so afraid of them to start. And here is the finished piece, you guys. I just want to show you up close how this looks. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you could see some of the details here. And obviously this is really small. It's like a 5x8 painting, but I am so happy that Etchr sent me this watercolor block to try out. I really enjoyed it, and I was really in need of some paper this size as I don't have any small watercolor paper. Now I've got 20 whole sheets of this to work with, which is really exciting. So again, thank you, Etchr. I will link their website in the description down below. I know most of you guys have already heard of them and a lot of you probably already use them, but I will link the website anyways down below. And I am wondering if I should create some more marine life now that I'm going into summer here, because I do always get in the mood to create that type of subject matter with my artwork in this season. So we will see about that. If you have suggestions for what type of marine life or summery things I should do next, let me know in the comments down below. And also let me know if you've tried Etchr paper, and if you do, which one is your favorite? I know they have accordion sketchbooks and all sorts of things that I will have to look into. So thank you guys as always for watching today's video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!